When change comes knocking at the door of your life, it rarely announces itself politely. It doesn't always come neatly wrapped with a bow or presented in a way that feels comfortable. More often than not, it shakes us, disrupts us, and unsettles us. And the first step in dealing with it is learning to recognize when it's time to stop clinging to the old and start preparing for something new. You see, recognizing the call for change is more than simply noticing that things aren't working anymore. It's about discerning the signs, listening carefully to that inner nudge of the Spirit, and realizing that what lies ahead is greater than what we're leaving behind. Think about it. Noah didn't wait until the rain started to fall before he picked up his hammer and built that ark. He recognized the moment before it arrived. He sensed the urgency even when others around him laughed or shrugged off the warning. And the truth is, many of us miss out on transformation because we wait until the storm is already raging before we're willing to move. Recognizing the call for change means being sensitive enough to notice the whispers before they become shouts, to pay attention to the subtle shifts in our spirit, our relationships, our opportunities, and even our struggles. Too often, we grow so comfortable with the familiar that we resist the very thing that could save us. We say, maybe tomorrow, maybe when I feel ready, maybe after things settle down. But friends, the world doesn't wait for us to feel ready. God's calling doesn't always wait until the timing looks perfect. Change calls us to act before comfort sets in. It calls us to step out while others stay seated, to trust when others doubt, and to prepare when others procrastinate. Recognizing that call means saying, I won't ignore the stirring in my heart. I won't wait until it's too late. I will move now. And here's what I've learned. That moment of recognition is sacred. It doesn't matter how small the signal may seem or how insignificant the prompting may appear. It carries weight. That uneasy feeling that you've outgrown where you are, that quiet sense that God is asking for more from you, that inner conviction that tells you to stop compromising, that's the Spirit calling you toward transformation. The question is, will you listen, or will you dismiss it until the storm arrives? I want you to think about the times in your own life when you sensed something needed to shift. Maybe it was a relationship that was no longer healthy, but you kept holding on because it was familiar. Maybe it was a job that left your soul dry, but you stayed because the paycheck felt safer than the leap. Maybe it was a habit that you knew was slowly eroding your joy, but you told yourself, just one more day. Recognizing the call for change doesn't mean the decision is easy. It just means you finally admit that staying where you are is no longer an option. There is a moment when God asks us to stop treating the symptoms and start confronting the cause. And that moment is the turning point. The floodwaters don't have to be rising before you act. In fact, the greatest victories are born when you prepare before the crisis arrives. Recognizing the call means building your ark while the sky is still clear, so that when the storm comes, and storms always come, you are ready, strong, and secure. And let me tell you this, when you start recognizing the call for change, don't expect everyone to understand. Noah's neighbors mocked him. His decision didn't make sense to the majority. And if you're waiting for the applause of the crowd before you act, you'll miss your moment. The crowd will never validate what only God has confirmed. The call for change is personal. It's not about convincing others. It's about obeying the tug inside of you. Recognizing the call is also about humility. It's about admitting that what got you here won't necessarily take you there. It's about acknowledging that you don't have all the answers, but you serve the one who does. It's about opening your heart to guidance, even when the path seems unclear. And in that surrender, strength rises. When you say, I don't fully understand, but I trust the one who calls me, you position yourself for breakthrough. And I want to remind you, big change doesn't usually start with a roar. It starts with a whisper. It starts with a quiet stirring, a gentle prompting, a soft voice saying, it's time. And if you can train your heart to recognize that moment, if you can discipline yourself to pay attention when God is nudging you, Then you won't be caught unprepared when the rains begin to fall. The very first step in transformation is not action, it is awareness. It is opening your eyes and ears to the truth that where you are is not where you are meant to remain. And once you recognize it, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That awareness will push you, stretch you, and stir you until you respond. So don't wait until the ground shakes beneath your feet. Don't wait until the door slams shut. Don't wait until the storm breaks. Recognize the call for change now, while the skies are clear, while the Spirit is whispering, while the opportunity to prepare is still open. Because the moment you recognize the call, you've already taken the first step into the big change God has prepared for you. There is great power in the simple word no. It may be one of the smallest words in the English language, but it carries an authority that can change the course of a life. Too often, we think transformation comes only by adding something new habits, new opportunities, new commitments. But real growth doesn't begin with what we say yes to. It begins with what we refuse to allow anymore. Saying no is the doorway to freedom. It is the guardrail that keeps us from falling into the same old traps. It is the decision to close the door on what no longer serves the calling on our lives. Every day we are faced with countless invitations, some subtle, some loud. An invitation to fear when uncertainty arises. An invitation to doubt when things don't go as planned. An invitation to compromise when standing firm feels too costly. And unless we learn the power of no, we will find ourselves pulled in directions that weaken us, distract us, and keep us from walking in our true purpose. Saying no to fear, no to doubt, no to toxic relationships, no to destructive habits. This is not about deprivation. It is about preservation. It is about preserving the future God has for you. Think about how many times people stumble, not because they didn't know what was right, but because they didn't have the courage to say no to what was wrong. Eve couldn't say no to the serpent's whisper. Samson couldn't say no to his impulses. Judas couldn't say no to greed. Each story reminds us that the greatest enemy of our destiny is often not what we don't know, but what we don't resist. And that's why no is such a holy word. It is not just resistance. It is alignment. When you say no to the things that drain you, you are simultaneously saying yes to the things that strengthen you. But I know saying no is not easy. It requires courage. It means you will disappoint people sometimes. It means others may not understand. Some of you struggle with that because you've spent your life trying to be agreeable, trying to keep the peace, trying to make everyone happy. But hear me. Every time you say yes to something that God never intended for you, you are robbing yourself of the strength to say yes to what He has truly called you to do. The truth is, you cannot be everything for everybody and still walk fully in your calling. No is not selfishness. It is stewardship. It is guarding your heart, your time, and your soul so that you can remain available to what truly matters. And let's be honest, we've all said yes when we should have said no. Maybe it was a relationship that you knew wasn't right, but you convinced yourself to stay. Maybe it was a habit that started small but ended up controlling you. Maybe it was a job or a partnership that looked good on the surface, but drained the very life out of you. And the longer you stayed, the more you realized that your yes was costing you peace, costing you joy, costing you clarity. But the good news is, every day is a new opportunity to reclaim your power. You can decide today to stop giving away your yes so cheaply. You can decide that from this moment on, your yes will be reserved only for what is worthy of your destiny. Saying no doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you become. When you start saying no to gossip, your character grows stronger. When you say no to bitterness, your heart grows lighter. When you say no to shortcuts, your integrity deepens. Every no builds the kind of person who is prepared for the big change ahead. And here's the paradox: the more disciplined you are with your no, the more powerful your yes becomes. A yes that is backed by countless no's, carries weight, carries fire, carries commitment. Do you realize that Jesus himself used the power of now? In the wilderness, when the enemy tempted him with power, bread, and shortcuts, he could have said yes to comfort, yes to applause, yes to the easy way out. But he said no. And in that moment, his no preserved the destiny of the entire world. That's how powerful this word can be. Your no may feel small in the moment, but its impact can echo far beyond you. It can protect your family, safeguard your future, and shape generations to come. So let me ask you, what do you need to say no to today? What is stealing your time, your energy, your focus? What voice is whispering compromise into your ear? What habit is keeping you small when you were called to live in freedom? The Spirit of God is always leading us to say no to the things that diminish us, not because he wants to take joy away, but because he wants to lead us into a greater joy, a fuller life, a deeper peace. Every no to what holds you back is also a yes to growth, purpose, and destiny. And if you want to see a big change in your life, you cannot just add new commitments on top of old compromises. You must clear the space. You must decide once and for all, I will no longer tolerate what weakens me. I will no longer accept what distracts me. I will no longer give my yes to things that rob me of my calling. Because when you finally embrace the power of no, you make room for the kind of life God has been waiting to give you all along. When life calls you into something bigger, it almost always leads you into territory you've never walked before. Change, by its very nature, pulls you out of the comfort zones you've built and ushers you into the unknown. And the unknown is frightening, isn't it? It feels uncertain. It feels risky. It feels like stepping out onto waters that might not hold your weight. But hear me, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to keep walking even when the ground beneath you is unfamiliar. The courage to embrace the unknown is what separates those who talk about change from those who actually experience transformation. Think about it. Every person who ever stepped into something significant had to take that leap into the unknown. Abraham had to leave his homeland, not even knowing where he was going, but trusting that God would guide each step. Moses had to face Pharaoh with nothing more than a staff in his hand and a promise in his heart. Peter had to step out of the boat, not onto dry land, but onto water, trusting that his Savior would hold him up. The pattern is clear. Every big change begins with a courageous step into uncertainty. You don't get the miracle while clinging to the shore. You don't see the breakthrough while sitting safely in the boat. You only discover what's possible when you're willing to step where you've never stepped before. And I know the unknown stirs up all kinds of questions. What if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if I get hurt? What if I look foolish? But I want to remind you, there's another question that's even more important. What if God shows up? What if this risk unlocks the life I was made for? What if this leap carries me to a destiny far greater than I imagined? You see, fear always paints the worst-case scenario, but faith dares to imagine the best-case scenario, the one that only God could orchestrate. And it's faith, not fear, that fuels the courage to embrace the unknown. There is something about the unknown that exposes our dependence. When we can't predict every detail, when we don't have control, when the path isn't clear, that's when we discover how much we truly lean on God. If everything were certain, if every detail was mapped out, faith would never be necessary. But faith thrives in the unknown. It grows strongest where our understanding ends. So the next time the unknown feels overwhelming, instead of resisting it, recognize it as an invitation to trust God in a deeper way than ever before. Too many people miss out on transformation because they wait for certainty before they move. But certainty never comes. Certainty is a mirage. If Noah had waited for certainty, the ark would have never been built. If David had waited for certainty, Goliath would still be standing. If Esther had waited for certainty, her people would have perished. You don't need certainty to step forward. You need courage. You need the willingness to take one step at a time, even if you don't see the full picture. The unknown is not meant to paralyze you. It's meant to position you. It's the stage where God shows his power in ways you never could have scripted. And let me tell you, courage is not loud. Sometimes courage looks like quiet obedience, like simply saying, "Yes, Lord," when everything inside you wants to say, "Not me." Courage looks like signing the paper, making the call, packing the box, walking into the room, showing up even when your knees are shaking. Courage is not about the absence of trembling. It's about trembling and moving forward anyway. You see, the unknown is not your enemy. It is the arena of your becoming. The unknown is where you discover gifts you didn't know you had, strength you didn't know was in you, and a God who is far greater than you ever imagined. If you stay in the familiar, you stay small. If you cling to what is safe, you cling to limitation. But when you step into the unknown, you give God room to enlarge you, to stretch you, to reveal more of himself through you. And yes, people may call you crazy. They may question why you're leaving what looks secure for what looks uncertain. But remember, those who laughed at Noah stopped laughing when the rain began to fall. Those who doubted David stopped doubting when Goliath hit the ground. Those who resisted Esther's boldness celebrated when her courage saved their lives. Courage in the unknown is never wasted. It always carries a harvest. So maybe right now you're standing at the edge of something new. Maybe God is nudging you to step out, to let go, to trust him in a way you never have before. And you feel the fear rising, the questions swirling, the doubts screaming. But listen closely, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the next step. The unknown is not as frightening as it seems when you realize who is walking with you. The courage to embrace the unknown is the very path that leads to the big change your life is waiting for. When it comes to real and lasting change, willpower alone will never be enough. You can try harder, you can grit your teeth, you can make promises to yourself again and again, but sooner or later, human strength reaches its limit. That's why so many resolutions fail, why so many attempts to start fresh collapse after a few weeks. Because true transformation is not built on determination, it is built on faith. Faith is the foundation of change, the anchor that keeps you steady when everything around you is shaking, the power that carries you beyond what you could ever accomplish on your own. Faith is not wishful thinking. It is not crossing your fingers and hoping things turn out better this time. Faith is confidence not in yourself, but in the one who holds your life in his hands. It is the unshakable assurance that even if you can't see the way forward, God already has a plan. And that kind of faith changes the way you face every challenge. It gives you the courage to step into change, not because you trust the process, but because you trust the one guiding the process. When Noah built the ark, he didn't rely on human logic. Human logic would have said, "It has never rained like this before, so why waste your time?" Human logic would have told him to play it safe, to blend in with the crowd, to ignore the warning. But Noah had something greater than logic. He had faith, and that faith became the foundation for a new beginning, not just for himself, but for the entire world. That's what faith does. It doesn't just shift your circumstances, it impacts everything connected to you. Some of you are standing at the edge of change right now, but fear keeps whispering in your ear. You're asking, what if I fail? What if I'm not strong enough? What if this doesn't work out? But faith answers those questions with one truth. It's not about your strength. It's about God's strength. Faith says, I don't know how, but I know who. Faith says, I don't see the full picture, but I trust the one who designed it. And when you stand on that kind of foundation, you can weather storms that would have broken you otherwise. Faith doesn't always remove the storm, but it does give you the power to endure it. Remember the disciples in the boat, terrified as the waves crashed around them. They thought the storm was going to destroy them. But the presence of Jesus in that boat changed everything. Faith is not the absence of storms. It is the presence of peace in the middle of the storm. It is the conviction that even when everything looks chaotic, you are still held, still seen, still protected. And here's the truth. Change will test you. Big change will shake everything familiar. It will expose your doubts, your weaknesses, your insecurities. That's why faith is not optional. It is essential, because when the old structures fall away and the new is not yet visible, the only thing that keeps you standing is the foundation of faith. You will not survive the shaking if all you lean on is your own strength. But when your foundation is faith, you can lose everything else, still stand, because you are rooted in something eternal. Some people try to build their change on feelings, but feelings shift with the wind. One day you're motivated, the next day you're not. Some people try to build their change on circumstances, but circumstances are unpredictable. They can turn overnight. Faith, however, is unshakable. It's not based on moods or moments, but on the eternal promises of God. And that's why when everything else crumbles, faith still holds. And let me say this, faith doesn't mean you will always understand. Faith doesn't mean you'll always feel certain. Faith means that in the absence of answers, you still choose to believe. It means when the road is dark, you still take the next step. It means when people doubt you, you keep building anyway. Faith is not proven in comfort. It is proven in the fire. It is proven in the storms, in the delays, in the waiting. And every time you choose to keep trusting, your faith grows stronger. So don't despise the challenges because they are shaping your faith. Don't run from the unknown because it is deepening your dependence. Don't fear the shaking because it is driving you to build your life on something unshakable. If your faith is in God, then no change is too great, no storm is too strong, no obstacle is too heavy. Faith makes the impossible possible. Faith opens the door to miracles. Faith lays the foundation for a life that cannot be shaken. Because at the end of the day, it's not your willpower that will carry you into big change. It is your faith. Every big change in life attracts resistance. It is as if the very moment you decide to rise higher, forces appear to pull you back down. Sometimes that resistance comes from the outside, criticism, misunderstanding, rejection, ridicule. And sometimes it comes from the inside, fear, self-doubt, insecurity, wariness. Either way, resistance is unavoidable. The question is not whether it will come, but whether you will have the resilience to keep pressing forward in spite of it. Think about Noah. When he began to build the ark, the skies were still clear. People must have mocked him, whispered behind his back, laughed openly at what they thought was foolishness. Day after day, he hammered away under the weight of ridicule, and yet his resilience carried him through. He was not building for applause. He was not building for the approval of his neighbors. He was building in obedience, building for the future, building because he trusted the word he had received. That is the essence of resilience through resistance, the ability to keep going when nothing around you encourages you to do so. Every great change requires this quality, because the truth is, people are more comfortable with who you were than with who you are becoming. The moment you begin to grow, to stretch, to step into something greater, it threatens the comfort of those who want you to stay the same. Don't be surprised if your commitment to change makes others uncomfortable. Don't be shocked if some relationships shift, if some voices turn negative, if some people can't walk with you into the next season. Growth has a way of separating those who are for you from those who were only with you for convenience. But resistance is not only external. Some of the hardest resistance you will ever face will be inside yourself. You'll wrestle with doubts. Am I really capable of this? Did I hear God correctly? What if I fail? You'll battle fatigue, those moments when the journey feels too long, the burden too heavy, the finish line too far away. You'll encounter the temptation to quit, to go back to what was familiar, to settle for what is easy. And it's in those moments that resilience becomes more than a nice idea. It becomes your lifeline. Resilience says, I may bend, but I will not break. I may stumble, but I will not stay down. I may be pressed on every side, but I will not be destroyed. And here's what I want you to see. Resistance is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. Resistance is evidence that you are moving in the right direction. If you were no threat, there would be no opposition. If you were not stepping into something significant, no one would bother trying to stop you. The storm doesn't rage against empty seas, it rises against ships carrying destiny. So instead of resenting resistance, reframe it. See it as confirmation that you are moving towards something worth fighting for. Resilience is forged in these battles. It is not developed in the easy seasons. It is built when the winds are against you, when the voices doubt you, when the odds are stacked high. That's where strength is born. That's where character is shaped. That's where the roots of faith sink deeper into the soil. The oak tree does not become mighty because it avoided storms. It becomes mighty because it endured them. And the same is true for you. The resistance you face today is preparing you for the weight of tomorrow's destiny. And let me remind you, resilience does not mean you never feel weary. It does not mean you never question or never cry. Resilience means that even in your weakness, you choose not to give up. It means that even with tears streaming down your face, you keep building, keep walking, keep trusting. It means that when the voices say it's impossible, you keep declaring, with God, all things are possible. That's resilience, not perfection, not strength without struggle, but determination to keep moving in spite of the struggle. There will always be people who underestimate you. There will always be moments when your own mind tries to sabotage you. But don't you dare quit. Don't you dare lay down the tools God placed in your hands. Because every strike of the hammer, every step of obedience, every act of perseverance is shaping a future you cannot yet see. And one day, the very people who doubted you will stand amazed at what your resilience produced. So don't run from resistance. Don't despise it. Let it strengthen you. Let it strengthen you. Let it drive your roots deeper and your vision higher. Because every time you endure, every time you refuse to quit, you are declaring to the world and to yourself that you will not be stopped. Resilience through resistance is the only way you will step fully into the big change your life was created for. Real change is never just about a single moment. It's about a lifestyle. Too many people think transformation happens in one decision, one prayer, one burst of inspiration. And while those moments matter, they ignite something powerful within us. The real test of change is what we choose to do tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Living the big change daily means refusing to treat transformation as an event and instead embracing it as a way of life. It's easy to have a big emotional moment and declare, I'm never going back to the old me. It's easy to feel inspired when the crowd is cheering, when the atmosphere is charged, when everything feels possible. But what about on the ordinary Tuesday morning when no one is clapping for you, when the bills still need to be paid, when the temptation to slip back into old habits creeps in? That's when the real change is tested. That's when you discover whether you're living for the moment or living the transformation. Living the big change daily is about alignment. It's about asking yourself each day, does this action reflect the person I am becoming or the person I used to be? Every choice, what you feed your mind, how you spend your time, the voices you listen to, the people you surround yourself with, either reinforces your growth or pulls you back into old patterns. And if you don't make the choice intentionally, life will default you back into what's comfortable. That's why you must wake up each day with resolve. Real change isn't automatic, it's cultivated. Think about the ark again. Noah didn't build it in a single day. He built it plank by plank, nail by nail through consistency. Every sunrise, he picked up his tools and kept building. Day after day, week after week, year after year. That daily commitment created something massive enough to carry his destiny. And that's the secret to every big change. It is sustained by small, consistent decisions repeated daily until they become a way of life. Sometimes we overcomplicate it. We think big change requires a dramatic leap every day. But it's usually the small, faithful steps that carry the greatest weight. Saying no to one distraction, choosing one healthier thought, offering one prayer of gratitude, speaking one word of encouragement instead of criticism. Step by step, day by day, those choices stack up into a life transformed. You don't drift into change. You walk into it with steady determination. And let me tell you, the enemy of lasting change is complacency. The moment you think you've arrived, the moment you start to coast, the old patterns start knocking on the door again. That's why living the big change requires vigilance. Not paranoia, but awareness. An awareness that every day matters, every choice matters, every response matters. When you carry that awareness, you stop treating change as temporary and start embodying it as permanent. Now, I know some of you have lived with cycles, starting strong, then falling back, trying again, then quitting again. And you're tired of the cycle. You want to know how to break it once and for all. The answer is not in trying harder for a short time. The answer is in building habits that reinforce your calling daily. It's about deciding that you won't just make the change. You will live the change. You will structure your days, your relationships, your environment to support what God is doing in you. Because when your life aligns with your transformation, the cycle breaks and momentum takes over. And here's the beauty of living the big change. It doesn't just impact you. It impacts everyone around you. Your children begin to see consistency in you, and it shapes their future. Your friends see your growth, and it inspires their own. Your workplace sees your integrity, and it raises the standard. Every daily act of living out change ripples outward into the world, touching lives you may never even realize. Living the big change daily is not glamorous. It won't always feel exciting. Some days it will feel ordinary, routine, even unnoticed. But it is in those unseen moments that the deepest roots are growing. It is in those daily disciplines that your character is being fortified. And when the storms come, and they will, you will discover that what you built day by day has become unshakable. So don't treat change as a one-time event. Don't relegate it to a memory of when you once felt inspired. Carry it with you. Guard it, feed it, live it out every single day until it becomes as natural as breathing. Because real transformation is not proven in the moment you decide, it is proven in the life you live.